Kitco News special coverage of the Mining Investment Event of the North is brought to you by West Red Lake Gold Mines.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Kitco News. I'm Jeremy Saffron, coming to you all week long from the Mining Investment Event of the North here in beautiful Quebec City, Canada. Now everyone here is talking about it. Silver currently trading between $34.20 and $34.70 an ounce, marking its highest sustained level since early 2012. A year to date, spot silver has appreciated about 18%, driven by, of course, a combination of industrial demand, and we have that safe haven investment appetite from institutions with all the ongoing global uncertainties right now. A year to date, silver has outperformed Bitcoin and the S&P 500. Now, industrial demand remains robust, particularly from the solar energy and in EV sectors, which continues to drive silver's consumption. And despite silver's gains, it has lagged behind gold, which has surged about 26% this year, reaching around $3,500 as a new record high. And the gold to silver ratio is widening to approximately 100, up from 84.7 from last year, which is quite crazy, indicating, of course, that silver may be undervalued relative to gold. Joining us right now is one of our favorite guests, Phil Baker. He's a retired CEO of Hecla Mining. He's also sits on the executive committee board of the Silver Institute, and I should say you're a senior advisor with Cristobal Mining as well. Nice to see you, Phil.
Nice to see you, Jeremy.
Just a few things to say you're doing. You're busy these days?
I am busy.
The retirement did you well?
Yeah, it has. And it's been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've been able to do things I haven't been able to do before. So.
That's great. I mean, some of the work you're doing, obviously, with the Institute, trying to shift some narrative there too. So let's switch over there. Let's talk about this silver breakout. You know, is it a real shift? Is it this false breakout we keep seeing? We saw it back in 2020, 2021, where it got a little bit of momentum and then, of course, slid back. What are your thoughts on this?
Look, nobody knows, but what you do know is that there's a big deficit in the silver market. So over the course of the last 4 years, 800 million ounces have had to come out of above ground stocks. We've consumed 800 million ounces more. We only produce in a year 800 million ounces. So that is a huge, huge deficit, and it's continuing. There's nothing's going to stop that from happening.
Yeah, so if we pull out, I mean, there's these drivers we talked about. Everybody knows these dual drivers. We got the industrial, of course, and we got the monetary, but the industrial demand seems to be picking up. I mean, since 2023, over 654 million ounces have went net negative. What are your thoughts on how to get metal back into the market in terms of silver?
Look, yeah, production is roughly 800 million ounces. We actually hit peak silver production in 2016 at 900 million ounces. So it has bounced around below 900 million ounces for the last decade. And nothing's going to change that because, for a variety of reasons. First of all, silver mines are quite small. Yeah. The largest silver mine in the world is actually a copper mine, and it produces 41 million ounces of silver. So that's out of 800 million ounces. And it drops off quite quickly. You're less than 10 million ounces after the first 10 mines in the world. So you don't have mines that are able to grow the amount of mine production. So mine production is not going to fill that deficit that we've seen over the last 5 years.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, basic supply and demand, what does that mean for the price? I mean, feels like it's been suppressed at this moment.
Well, it certainly has not gone as high as I would have expected it to go. Having said that, it is on a great trajectory, right? As you mentioned in the opening. I think, though, it will continue to go up. It'll bounce around, but long term it has to increase because there's just not enough production, whether it's mine production or recycling. You think about recycling, it has never been more than about 200 million ounces ever. And we're currently somewhere between 150 and 190. That's what it's been over the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to a lot of analysts on the show, some that have some interesting things to say about silver, COMEX, short covering, what have you. We can get into that. But I got to ask you on the supply side, I mean, will higher prices on the silver market start to unlock more supply? Do you think there will be more miners going after it?
Yeah, you certainly will continue to have miners exploring, trying to develop mines, but it takes a long time. From the time from a discovery to production is somewhere between 15 and 30 years. Yeah. So there is nothing that's out there that is going to make a fundamental difference in the amount of supply that comes into the market. You'll have incremental improvements. Maybe we'll get past the 900 million ounces that we had in 2016, but that's probably 5 or more years out to see it rise to that level. So you're going to continue to have the deficit, which puts pressure, of course, on the price.
Yeah, of course. You were talking about India before we came to here, talking about that 2016 price peak. Explain that to the audience. Unpack that a little bit.
So India is an amazing country with the consumption that they have of silver. They only have one silver mine, and it produces about 18 million ounces. It's the 4th largest silver mine in the world. But they consume about 19% of all of the silver that is consumed. And silver consumption is about 1.2 billion ounces. Their consumption, unlike China, is not industrial. Their consumption is physical, it's silverware. And by the way, silverware is not cutlery, it's artwork. And they consume it in jewelry. So those three, that's 90% of their consumption. China, on the other hand, their consumption is 90% industrial. So nothing is going to change that consumption that's happening in India. And in fact, what's going to happen is as India grows, by the end of this decade, you can expect India to add 2 Canadas in that period of time. So it'll be about 1.5 billion people. And of their population, about 25% of it is under the age of 14.
Wow.
So they're going to continue to grow, and they're going to continue to demand silver, and they're going to demand it for these traditional uses that they've had, but they're also going to demand it industrially, because they have made a commitment to solar. And you're going to see that 10% demand for silver rise. How far will it go? I don't know. The United States, it's about 50-50 between industrial and the other applications. I suspect as it industrializes, it'll reach more of that level, but it's probably, you're talking about billions of ounces of silver demand just for India.
Well, let's talk about the retail attitude towards silver. I mean, we all know that at these peak prices on the gold side, $3,400 on spot, there's not a ton of people outside of central banks maybe going and picking it up. Are they picking up silver instead?
Yeah. Well, central banks are not, but are people picking it up?
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you think about the silver price at $34. It's a long way off its all-time high at $50. So it has a long way to go to where people will have this concern that they've reached the peak. And in my view, I think that the silver price will go significantly above that $50 price.
Okay, and if that happens, are we going to see all these stackers, as we call them, coming to market and trying to sell some of that silver?
No, I don't think so. If they were going to do that, they would have done it in 2011, 2012, when we had the run in the silver price. You didn't see silver come out from those sources.
Interesting. Okay, we've got to transition to China. I mean, you talked about it briefly. Is it physical demand or is it more of a strategic hoarding? I mean, we got some statistics out, 80% year over year, their net silver imports have surged in Q1 of this year alone, in 2025. So, I mean, is that, genuine user end demand?
Well, they had a slowdown in their importing of silver. They had a slowdown in the solar. So I think it's just a restocking of their inventory.
Bringing back the strategic. What about Trump tariffs? I mean, are you watching this closely? I mean, we haven't heard a ton about the metal side in terms of the tariffs, but it hasn't really affected Chinese industrial silver buying at all.
No, it doesn't. And if you think about it, there's no other place to go for that solar equipment. Now, over time, that's going to change. You see Vietnam constructing more. Going back to India. India is now a place where they're going to make more and more of the Apple products. Right. And so you'll see the demand shift from China to these other countries, but it's not going to be eliminated because of the tariffs. Tariffs, relatively small impact on the total price of a solar cell.
Yeah. Is the paper market breaking down? I mean, we always get questioned this on the show. When we talk about silver, there is this attitude that it's been falsely broken down in terms of the paper. Can you give us any insight into that?
Look, the paper market has always been significantly more ounces traded than you have in the physical. At some point, you do reach a point where people are taking the physical, and it does cause a squeeze, and you'll see the price go up, and it'll go up dramatically. Haven't reached that level yet, but it will happen.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I wonder if we're finally going to run into some logistical problems on that paper side.
Yes, you will, and you've actually seen that happen when the tariffs all came out. You saw silver move from the UK to the US. Now you're seeing it go back to the UK. So you're going to have those dislocations, and it causes a different premium between the two markets.
The silver-gold ratio, I mean, we hear about this, 100 to 1 right now actively. I mean, is it outdated or is it opportunity?
Opportunity. The characteristics of gold, silver also has, right? It's a monetary metal. People are able to afford it. And so if you go and you want to get a coin, a 1 ounce coin for gold, that's a big buy, right? Not so much for silver. And so you're going to see people continue to purchase silver for that purpose.
Do you think it's this ratio is still a useful indicator on the macro front? I mean, do you think it's kind of lost relevance in terms of the macro news right now?
No, I think it's a factor to take into consideration. Is it the end all be all? No, I think fundamentally it's really about the consumption that you have, like in places like India, here, industrial. You have to go back to those factors first, but then you have this secondary consideration of that gold-silver ratio.
Yeah. The retail investor, I mean, it seems as though, we talked about this, obviously long-term you're very bullish in the silver space, but why hasn't retail really piled in yet, you think?
Well, look, it's a big world. So India, the demand for silver is at all-time highs, and the price of silver in rupee terms is at all-time highs. Okay. So we got to make sure our view is not just of, here in North America or in Europe. Frankly, the bigger driver is in Asia, both India and China.
We've seen that east versus west kind of mentality when we talk about, even central bank demand in China for gold. The same applies for silver at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, and India is really the driver of that. Now, having said that, China consumes 26% of all the silver that's consumed, but that's industrial, and that's going to move out of China because it's really not driven by China, it's driven by the industrial products.
I got to ask you, I mean, what do you think the most single macro event could happen as a base case this year that might drive silver past $40, $50, getting us closer to that range?
Look, it's really political events that could be the biggest driver of both gold and the silver price. From my perspective, I'd prefer sort of a steady sort of rise in the price of silver. It will help maintain the industrial demand, over the long term. But to have a big jump, it's probably a political event.
And I mean, silver seems to be in the rotation here in terms of retail investors coming to market. I mean, gold, as I mentioned, up 26%, silver up 18%. Bitcoin seems to be cooling down. I mean, is silver being seen as a monetary metal again? And what are your thoughts here?
Well, it certainly is. You see it here. You go to Costco, right? And people are buying silver at Costco. They're buying gold, but they're buying a lot of silver at Costco because it's affordable and it's a one-way trade. They're not buying it in order to trade it and sell it when the price of silver moves up $1 or $5. They're buying it to hold it for the long term.
Is a hedge?
I think to a certain degree, and it's interesting, as I understand it, the buyers are younger. There was a report that came out, and I've never seen a secondary report, so I'm not sure it's accurate, but there was a report that came out that said that the age of the buyers were under 40 years old. And Costco, of course, is able to tell what the demographics are of the buyers of every product that they have.
And are your thoughts, Phil? I mean, you know, we're seeing this with Bitcoin. We're seeing this with the debasement theory. The fact that people go to the market and they can't buy as much as they could have for $20 in the last 1 or 2 years. I mean, that debasement, is that what's driving people towards silver? Easier entry point?
Yeah, certainly here in the U.S., the relative to gold, silver is affordable. And when I went to India, I was in India about 3 weeks ago, and when we went to India, I was quite surprised at how bullish the silver market was relative to gold, because for the same reason, the affordability of silver relative to gold.
Makes sense. And there's something just about holding a nice little coin of silver. I give it to my nieces and nephews.
Yeah, well, and the jewelry that's made, and then in India, these pieces of art.
Right.
It is remarkable. One of the things we saw was a grandfather clock of solid silver.
Wow.
So that's the sort of thing that they're making.
Maybe not a Costco buyer.
They are not a Costco buyer.
Okay, well then I got to ask you from a strategic point of view. I mean, if we kind of pull out, is this a secular shift? I mean, you know, there's some forecasts calling for $40 silver this year. Others are saying 50 over the next 2 years if the deficit continues, as you said. Is it a true secular bull market in silver right now?
Look, that secular bull market started in 2001. So in 1999 was peak demand for silver in photography. And it went from a third of total demand for silver to effectively zero over the last 25 years. So you've had this downdraft because of photography, but industrial more than made up for that over the course of the last 25 years. Over the last 5 years, and maybe even 10 years, it's been this growth in solar demand. So we are in this bull market for silver, and the world just doesn't realize it.
Yeah. It almost feels like there's a little bit of tactical noise there too. So are we going to see 40 this year?
Look, I have no way of knowing when the price is going to go up. I would not be surprised to see it go well past 40, even this year. All I can say is that over time, there's no doubt in my mind that you'll see silver prices hit above the last high, the $50 high.
How exciting is that for you?
Look, I've been focused on silver primarily for the last 25 years. So
you've seen a couple of these.
Well, when I started to look at silver, it was 2001, and the price of silver, literally the month I started, was $4.10. So this $34 silver that we see is extraordinary, but it's not surprising, and it won't be surprising to see it even higher.
Yeah, the supply and demand story continues not to go away. Before I let you go, I mean, you're a busy man here. I got to ask you a couple of quick lightning round takes. The first one, we talked about it a little bit, but that paper market, I mean, is it fragility or fiction?
It's just fragility.
Yeah. I don't know what the audiences will think of that.
And the reason I say that is what's happening has always happened, but at some point it gets squeezed, and that's just the nature of that market. At some point, people that are in the paper market want the physical, and when they do, then it breaks down. Yeah,
makes sense. Call them up. Bigger demand story, solar, or are we more semiconductors?
Solar.
Yeah. Just we've heard analysts say it was larger than you thought it was. Now it seems to be flipping a little bit more.
Yeah, well, it's continuing to grow, and it will not decline even as more nuclear comes on. Nuclear it's a much slower build than the solar. So I'm not concerned about that we've reached some peak solar demand.
Great runway there. Okay, more price sensitivity, supply or investment flows?
Price sensitivity.
Yeah, on the side.
I would say that it's really this fundamental demand for silver, and the fact that you've got stagnant growth in supply. It's the combination of those two things.
We've heard from obviously President Trump trying to make strategic minerals as part of the EO and a new act, and we've seen even the Canadian Prime Minister come forward and say we want to make mining easier. I mean, I haven't really heard that happening yet, but have you?
It's happening.
It is.
It is happening. In the United States, it's definitely happening. Yeah. The Fast 41 is a new procedure that they have for advancing projects, and these are considered critical minerals, and they include silver. It is not a critical mineral, but the projects include silver. Right. And so you're going to see these projects, I think, move much more rapidly. And I think you're going to see also new legislation. After they've passed the tax bill, there's going to be legislation focused on permitting. I don't know if it's the next legislation, but it was the number one item, House Bill number one. Right. 2 years ago.
Yeah, so obviously a little bit of a green path there, hopefully for
right.
future.
That's right.
Okay, one stat that every serious silver investor should track in 2025. What are you looking at in the market and the investment audience at home should watch for?
Look, what I'm really watching is India, is the demand in India, and the fact that they have this extraordinary demand with the rupee price being so high is startling. And that's what I'm going to keep my eye on.
Okay, I like it. I appreciate your time. Phil Baker,
Jeremy,
of course,
thank you.
joining us. I want to make sure I get this right because you're on the executive committee, of course, of the Silver Institute, as well as a senior advisor at Cristobal Mining.
San Cristobal Mining.
San Cristobal, I mean, it's a crazy, great story out there.
Right,
They're up to some good things?
Absolutely. They're the 5th largest producer of silver in the world. There as a mine, and as a company, they're the 10th largest. Yeah. And Hecla, who I work for, is the 12th largest.
So he knows a thing or two about the silver mining space. Phil, appreciate your time.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Jeremy.
you. For Kitco News, I'm Jeremy Safford. Now remember, we're going to be here at the event all week long with some great guests. Stay tuned. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Kitco News special coverage of the Mining Investment Event of the North is brought to you by West Red Lake Gold Mines.